Okay, so now we've got our rough selection active. I actually want to go to select and inverse to invert the selection, and then we're going to cheat a layer mask. We'll do this by hitting the adjustment layer button at the top of the layers palette, and I want to choose a levels adjustment layer for this. Now the important part here is, because we're only going to be using the layer mask attached to this adjustment layer, it's very important that you don't make any alterations at all to these level sliders. All we want to do is simply click the OK button. Now you can see that that selection has been applied to the layer mask. Now to enable this layer mask to affect this layer, we need to grab hold of it in the layers palette and drag it down and drop it below the actual photographic border layer. We'll click on the border and we'll simply go to layer and group with previous. Okay, so you can see now that this layer mask is affecting this particular target layer, and we've fairly effectively masked out all the unwanted white background that surrounds the twigs and leaves on the border image. Having said that, we do need to do a little cleaning up, but this is the advantage that that layer masks give us. So to start cleaning this up, I actually want to click directly on the layer mask attached to the adjustment layer. I'm going to choose the brush tool. Make sure that black is my foreground colour, because in terms of layer masking, black conceals and white reveals, and what we want to do here is conceal the remaining parts of white within the image. Now for this you really want to zoom in quite well, and I'm going to zoom in on this tiny little bit of white here. Back to my brush tool, black as foreground. I'm going to choose a very small soft brush and reduce the size quite a bit, so we've got something nice and accurate to work with. And then I can simply start painting into these areas to hide any remaining small areas of white showing through. Now this can be quite a laborious process, but it's one that's worth really taking your time with. What makes this border effect work is the fact that it's isolated very, very accurately indeed, and that it actually looks like it hasn't been pasted on at all. And for it to look like that, we really need to get rid of every vestige of the original white background. You can see this is very easily done. Remember, I'm actually painting onto the layer mask here and not onto the image itself. I can actually reduce the opacity of my brush to around about 50%, so I'm just working with partially opaque black, and I can very gently just brush down the sides of these twigs here just to hide that very bright halo around the edges. And as I said, you really do need to take your time with this and carefully work around the entire image to make sure that all these vestiges of white and bright colours are hidden. Let me just scroll here a bit, and as you can see there's another remaining area of white there that I need to disguise. Again, just round these edges, I just want to brush very carefully with black just to hide up these unsightly halos. You want to take more time with this than I am doing. It's worth, as I've said, it's worth taking your time over this. But you'll be able to see now just from that section that once we've done that, that really finishes that off. For areas such as these that we actually missed before, I'm going to revert back to my brush tool and turn up the opacity to 100%, and then I can increase the size of the brush and simply brush directly onto the layer mask, just to hide this area as well. Remember here, we're not actually painting with black, we're rather painting with black onto the layer mask, and the black that you can see appearing is actually the colour from the underlying background layer. Okay, so I'm going to leave you to complete that process for a few minutes. As I said, you need to work around the entire pasted border, just carefully covering up these lines. So I'll leave you to get on with that, and then we'll come back for a final session.